I'm making the point that Gavin Newsom is losing this argument. How would I say that? Why would I deduce that? How would I come up with such a thing? Well, listen to the folks on CNN and what they highlighted with this chart. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket.
Did you hear that, Governor Newsom? Did you hear that? I know you're about to leave office soon. I get that. But did you just hear that? America is with Donald Trump. America is with the GOP on this issue.
Here's the thing about Gavin Newsom that most of the mainstream media refuses to say out loud. The man is losing. Not just a debate here and there, not just a bad news cycle. He's losing the bigger argument about what kind of leadership Americans actually want. And here's the wild part. It's not Republicans saying this. It's CNN. It's Stephen A. Smith. It's Bill Maher. The criticism is coming from inside the House, and they're not just talking, they're showing receipts. When people on your own side are calling you out on live TV, backed by charts and data, that's not noise. That's a warning sign. So today, we're breaking down exactly why California's golden boy is watching his political future crack in real time. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this. If you appreciate this kind of straight-up political analysis, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're only getting started. Now, let's set the stage. Gavin Newsom is doing his best to act like he's not running for president. We all see it. He sees it. His hairstylist definitely sees it. His time as governor ends in 2026, and it's obvious he's aiming for something bigger. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. You can't campaign for the highest office in the country while your own state looks like it's coming apart at the seams. That's like applying to be a head chef when your current restaurant has a failing health score and rats in the kitchen. People are going to notice. And they already are. Smith, the legendary sports commentator who's never been afraid to speak his mind, recently laid out the case against Newsom in a way that should make California Democrats very nervous. His first major point was simple. The woke agenda has gone too far. Now, before anyone panics, let's be clear. Being progressive isn't automatically a bad thing. Having values isn't the issue. The problem starts when ideology matters more than actually fixing real problems for real people. Stephen A. made that crystal clear. Newsom has spent years pushing causes that sound great online but don't help the family in Sacramento struggling to afford groceries. There's no shortage of clips showing the governor going all in on progressive battles, cancel culture fights, and education changes that critics say focus more on messaging than results. And here's the thing about clips. They never go away. When you run for president, every moment of your career gets replayed. Do you really think the opposition isn't saving every second for the perfect moment?
Gavin Newsom's talking about potentially running for the president. Actually, he's not talking about it. He's trying to avoid talking about it, but we all know what he's doing because he has to leave the gubernatorial seat in 2026. The governor's seat in 2026. We know what he wants. You gonna pull it off with the record that took place in California all of these years under your stewardship? It's nice to see him sticking his chest out and going off. You think they don't have clips of how you embraced extreme leftist policies during the whole woke movement and cancel culture and everything else? You think they don't have those clips? You think they didn't see people getting arrested and let out of jail the same day?
But it doesn't stop there. In fact, it gets worse. Let's talk about the homelessness crisis, because this one is especially brutal. Walk through downtown Los Angeles or San Francisco right now and honestly tell me things are improving. You can't. The streets are packed with people who have nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep, and no real help in sight. Stephen A. points out that the state government's response has been slow, ineffective, and tangled in so much bureaucratic red tape that real solutions never seem to make it to the street. We're talking about human beings suffering in one of the richest states in the richest country on earth. That's not just a policy failure, that's a moral failure. And while we're talking about things that are out of control, let's address the elephant in the room. The cost of living in California has become completely insane. Stephen A. highlights that the state now ranks among the most expensive places to live in the entire country. Housing prices have shot through the roof, taxes keep climbing year after year. Regulations pile on, making everything more expensive for everyone. Middle-class families who have lived in California for generations are packing up and leaving because they simply can't afford to stay. Businesses are doing the exact same thing. When major companies start moving their headquarters to places like Texas and Florida, that's not random. That's not a coincidence. That's a verdict on leadership.
You think they don't have footage of crime ravaging the streets of Los Angeles or homelessness? You think they don't know about the cost of living and how it's the highest in this republic right now? Let's talk.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. Stephen A. isn't just blaming bad policies. He's pointing to something deeper, something that's slowly tearing California apart. And that's the refusal to actually engage with anyone who thinks differently. Look, everyone knows California is a deep blue state, but being in the majority doesn't give you the right to completely shut out the other side. Millions of Republicans and independents live in the state, and when their concerns are dismissed as irrelevant, or worse, painted as morally wrong, you end up creating a powder keg of resentment.
I don't pretend to know. I'm just an American citizen and a conscientious observer that's able to read and deduce what the hell is happening to some degree. I don't have all the answers, but damn it, the people who do, what good are you if all you're gonna do is spew vitriol and alienate one side with 77 million voters that are gonna look at him and embrace the victim or the victimhood that he's embracing? How do you serve to convince them to swing your way? Because somebody needs to. How are you going to convince people to go to the polls?
This refusal to engage isn't just bad politics, it's bad governance. When you only listen to people who already agree with you, your policies start leaning more and more in one direction. You overlook obvious problems. You dismiss practical solutions. You build an echo chamber where the only feedback you hear is applause, even while steering the ship straight toward an iceberg. Stephen A. warns that unless Democrats start reaching across the aisle, both California and the party could face serious long-term instability. And that brings us to immigration, arguably Newsom's biggest vulnerability. Let me throw out some numbers that should make every Democratic political strategist lose sleep tonight.
On this particular issue, as it involves migrants, immigrants, those who are undocumented, dare we say illegal, in the United States of America, he's winning on this issue. There's a reason he won the popular vote. There's a reason he won the electoral college vote. There's a reason he won every swing state. There are people within the United States of America that want our immigration crisis addressed and want the situation resolved somehow, some way. And a person that seems eager to bring a resolution to the table is President Donald Trump.
CNN, not exactly a conservative network, recently put up a chart showing Trump's net approval rating on immigration. During his first term, Trump was underwater by 21 points on this issue. People didn't trust him to handle it. Fast forward, and he's now in positive territory, a swing of over 20 points. There's no issue in American politics where Trump has improved more dramatically than immigration. So, what does this mean for Newsom? It means he's on the wrong side of an issue Americans increasingly care about. While Trump has won applause for his hardline border policies, Newsom has gone the opposite direction. He's blocked federal immigration measures, promoted sanctuary policies that critics say encourage unauthorized entry, and turned California into a front line in the immigration debate. And more, it looks like he's losing that battle in public opinion. Stephen A. Smith doesn't sugarcoat it. To many voters, Newsom's actions aren't leadership, they're roadblocks causing chaos and straining resources. Schools are overcrowded, social services are stretched thin. Communities are dealing with worsening housing pressures. And what's the state's response? More political theater, more resistance, more fights with Washington. Meanwhile, real problems just keep piling up.
Because based off of what Donald Trump said, I'm making the point that Gavin Newsom is losing this argument. How would I say that? Why would I deduce that? How would I come up with such a thing? Well, listen to the folks on CNN and what they highlighted with this chart. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have it a little bit higher than that. There is no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term more than the issue of immigration.
But wait, there's more. Remember that high-speed rail project Newsom has been championing? The one that was supposed to show off California's innovation and forward-thinking vision? Yeah, that has turned into a complete disaster. Even Donald Trump recently mocked it, pointing out that the project is about 100 times over budget and still nowhere near finished. And honestly, he's not wrong. What was supposed to be completed within a decade has dragged on forever, with costs skyrocketing far beyond anyone's worst predictions. The railroad has become a symbol, but not the symbol Newsom wanted. Now it stands for mismanagement, waste, and a total disconnect from fiscal reality.
Because they may say we had a bipartisan agreement when Joe Biden was in office that Donald Trump convinced the GOP to nix because he wanted to use it as an issue to favor him during the election. Well, damn it, it worked. It worked. And I got news for you, Governor Newsom. It's working now. But before I go any further to elaborate on this issue, let's hear from Donald Trump himself. Let's see how he feels about the state of California and what's been going on under Governor Newsom's regime. Check out the president.
I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget.
Now, let's bring in another voice, because this story just keeps getting better. Bill Maher, the comedian and political commentator who spent years calling out both sides, has his own take on why California is falling apart. His diagnosis? Bureaucracy. Pure, suffocating, soul-crushing bureaucracy. Maher paints a vivid picture of what's really holding the state back. It's not a lack of money. It's not a shortage of good ideas. It's the endless web of regulators, administrators, inspectors, contract reviewers, project managers, fee assessors, special commissioners, zoning officers, and consultants, whose entire job seems to be making sure nothing ever gets done, and then charging you for it.
But there is a deep state, which is the bureaucratic class that justifies its existence by making up new rules, and that's my job. It's the vast network of regulators, administrators, inspectors, contract reviewers, project managers, fee assessors, special commissioners, zoning officers, and consultants whose jobs seem to be to make sure nothing ever happens and then charge you for it.
Think about that for a second. California has layered so much red tape on itself that even the simplest projects take years and cost millions more than they should. Permits need endless approvals from countless agencies. By the time anything actually happens, if it ever does, taxpayer dollars have already been burned on paperwork alone. Maher isn't saying all regulation is bad. That would be absurd. Rules and oversight have their place. But when bureaucracy gets so extreme that it actively blocks progress instead of enabling it, you've built a system that punishes ambition and makes efficiency impossible. Here's a stat that should blow your mind. Some estimates say if all the red tape on projects in the renewable energy pipeline were cut, the U.S. could hit 80% zero carbon in just 7 years. The real enemy of clean air isn't just big oil, it's big permitting. America isn't incapable of getting things done, we're just not allowed to. And California has perfected this art of self-sabotage. Maher also makes a key point. The left often fails to see when a good idea has been pushed too far, to the point it ends up hurting its own cause.
Semaphore estimates that if the red tape could be cut in everything that's currently stuck in the renewable queue, the United States would be 80% zero carbon in 7 years. The enemy to clean air isn't just big oil, it's big permitting. It's not that America isn't able to get anything done, it's that we're not allowed to. Of course, there should be consideration of the environment on everything we build, but as so often happens on the left, they seem to have no ability to recognize when they've taken a concept way too far and are in fact hurting their own cause.
Environmental protection matters. Everyone agrees on that. But when environmental impact statements balloon from a few pages into thousands of pages of legal jargon, taking an average of 4.5 years to complete, something has clearly gone off the rails. We're destroying hundreds of forests just to produce paperwork to decide if a project is actually good for the environment. The irony is almost too much to process. So where does all this leave us? Stephen A. and Bill Maher, two voices from very different corners of the media, are reaching the same troubling conclusion. California's problems aren't just isolated issues, they're symptoms of deeper leadership and structural failures. Woke politics that value symbolism over substance. A skyrocketing cost of living is driving families and businesses out. A homelessness crisis that brings shame to one of the world's largest economies. Immigration battles that put political posturing ahead of practical solutions. And a bureaucratic machine so bloated and self-perpetuating that real progress has become almost impossible.
As Barack Obama once said, one of the biggest lessons he learned as president was there is no such thing as shovel-ready projects. Environmental impact statements used to be a few pages long. Now they're thousands of pages of legalistic nonsense and take an average of 4.5 years to complete, with thousands of bureaucrats filling out millions of paper forms that kill hundreds of forests to answer the question, is this good for the environment?
Gavin Newsom sits at the center of all this, trying to position himself as a future president while his own state struggles, sometimes literally on fire. His refusal to compromise, his unwillingness to work across party lines, and his inability, or unwillingness, to cut through the red tape have all pushed public frustration to a breaking point. Projects stall indefinitely, taxes keep climbing, businesses pack up and leave, and everyday Californians are left footing the bill for leadership that seems more focused on national headlines than local solutions. What makes this especially damaging for Newsom's ambitions is that California is now under a harsh national spotlight. Every failure, every homeless encampment, and every departing U-Haul becomes proof for critics that progressive governance doesn't work. Whether that's fair or not, perception is everything in politics. And right now, the perception is brutal. As both Maher and Stephen A. point out, voters are growing tired of ideology that prioritizes looking good over actually getting things done. They want results, not rhetoric. Solutions, not just acknowledgement of problems. Unless California makes a serious course correction, focusing on practicality, accountability, and common sense, the state risks continuing its decline, serving as cautionary tale rather than the model of progress it once claimed to be. So, what do you think? Is Gavin Newsom's political career still salvageable, or has California's chaos already sealed his fate? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear your perspective. And if this video gave you a new insight or a fresh look at what's happening in America right now, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another breakdown. The political landscape is shifting faster than ever, and we'll be here dissecting it all with you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.